I found my husband on a dating app, using my photos. The notification glowed on my phone screen at 2:47 a.m., pulling me from restless sleep. Someone likes you. I blinked at the brightness, then froze. The profile picture staring back at me was from my honeymoon in Santorini, the one where the sunset turned everything gold, where I'm laughing with my head thrown back, wind whipping my dark hair across my face. The photo Dimitri took of me 3 years ago. The one I'd never posted anywhere public. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the profile. Every single photo was mine. The mirror selfie from my gym, the shot of me at my sister's wedding in that emerald dress, even the candid from last month's work conference that only lived in my private album. But the name on the profile wasn't mine. It was Dimitri, my husband, using the username Dimitri Seeks More. The bio read, married but looking. Discreet encounters only. My wife travels for work. I have plenty of free time. Swipe right if you're interested in no strings fun. I sat up in bed, the sheets pooling around my waist, and turned to look at him. Dimitri lay beside me, exactly where he'd been when I fell asleep 2 hours ago, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of deep sleep. His phone sat charging on his nightstand, screen dark and innocent. The room felt like it was tilting. I gripped my own phone tighter, staring at the impossible profile. This had to be a joke. A cruel prank. Some kind of identity theft. Except I opened the app fully, my journalist brain kicking into gear despite the nausea rising in my throat. I'd downloaded it 3 weeks ago for a story I was writing about modern dating culture, created a fake profile with stock photos, interviewed a few matches, then forgot about it. The notification that woke me was because I'd left my profile active, and the algorithm, in its infinite irony, had matched me with my own husband. I scrolled through his profile again. 6 photos, all of me. The bio that mentioned my work travel. I'd been to 4 conferences in the last 2 months. The timestamp showed he'd been active 23 minutes ago. 23 minutes ago, I'd been asleep beside him. I looked at Dimitri again. Really looked. At the face I'd kissed this morning before leaving for my morning run. The hands that had held mine at the altar. The man who'd cried when we found out I was pregnant last year, then held me through the miscarriage that followed. The man who, apparently, was catfishing women using my photos while pretending to be a cheating husband. My mind raced through possibilities, each more absurd than the last. Was this some kind of weird fantasy? A bizarre social experiment? Was someone framing him? Had his phone been hacked? I needed proof before I woke him, before I said words that couldn't be unsaid. Moving carefully, I slid out of bed and padded across our bedroom to his nightstand. His phone lit up with a fingerprint, and I felt a stab of guilt. He'd added mine to the recognition months ago in case of emergencies. This qualified. I opened his apps, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Nothing on his home screen. I checked his photos, normal snapshots, nothing suspicious. His messages showed conversations with his brother, his boss, some group chats with college friends. Then I found the folder, tucked in a subfolder within his utilities, hidden behind a calculator app that required a secondary password. I tried our anniversary. Wrong. My birthday. Wrong. His mother's birthday. It opened. What I found inside made my knees weak. A separate instance of the dating app, clearly the one linked to the profile I'd seen. But that wasn't all. There were messages. Dozens of conversations with different women, spanning back 6 months. My stomach lurched as I read through them. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. My wife's in Chicago until Thursday. Last night was incredible. When can we meet again? I've booked us a room at the Meridian. 7 p.m. work for you? But something was wrong. The messages read like fantasy, like roleplay. The women's responses were enthusiastic but vague. And when I checked the timestamps against my calendar, my blood ran cold. Every single meetup he'd mentioned coincided with evenings I'd actually been home. The night he claimed to be with Jessica at the Meridian Hotel, we'd hosted a dinner party for my parents. The afternoon coffee date with Amanda? We'd spent the whole day at the farmer's market and then binge-watched a new series. I clicked through more messages, my confusion deepening. Then I found something that made my breath catch. A group chat titled The Experiment. Dimitri. Week 23. Still no meetups, but engagement is up 40%. The photos work better than stock images. Unknown number, told you. Authenticity sells, even when it's fake. Dimitri. Ethics question though, I'm using real photos of a real person. Feels wrong. Unknown number. It's your wife. You have her permission, right? Dimitri. Not exactly. Haven't told her yet. Waiting for the right time. Unknown number. Dude, that's going to blow up in your face. Dimitri. I know. But the data is too good. 3 more weeks and I'll have enough for the presentation. Presentation? I backed out and searched his email. Found a folder labeled Startup, Project Mirror. Inside were dozens of emails to investors, pitch decks, user research documents. And then I understood. Dimitri was building a dating app security service. A company that would help people identify catfishers and fake profiles. The entire profile, the one using my photos, was a controlled experiment to test how easy it was to create a convincing fake identity and engage with real users. Every conversation I'd read was Dimitri as a researcher, stringing along matches without ever meeting them, documenting how people responded to what they thought was a married man looking for an affair. He was building a database of red flags, conversation patterns, behavioral markers that his future app could use to identify and flag potential catfishers. I should have felt relief. But instead, rage bloomed hot in my chest. He'd been using my face, my body, my identity for half a year without telling me. Women on that app thought they were talking to a cheating husband who looked like me. And Dimitri had decided this was acceptable research methodology? I looked at him again, still peacefully asleep, and made a decision. I created a new profile on the app. Used stock photos this time, a brunette model who looked nothing like me, wrote a bio that would appeal exactly to the kind of person Dimitri seeks more claimed to be. Then I swiped right on my husband. The match notification came through within seconds. I watched his phone light up on the nightstand, the buzz soft against the wood. Dimitri didn't stir. I waited, my new profile open on my phone. Hey there, I typed. Your profile caught my eye. I appreciate honesty, so rare these days. Nothing. He was asleep, after all. But I knew his routine. Dimitri always checked his phone first thing when he woke up, usually around 6:30 a.m. I glanced at the clock. 3:17 a.m. I had 3 hours to decide how to play this. I could wake him now, confront him with everything I'd found. But the journalist in me, the part that had won awards for investigative work, wanted to understand the full scope before I made accusations. How many women had he engaged with? How far had these conversations gone? And most importantly, what the hell was he planning to do with all this data? I opened his laptop, password the same as always, our cat's name, and found the Project Mirror folder. What I discovered over the next 2 hours was simultaneously impressive and infuriating. Dimitri had created an entire framework for identifying fake dating profiles. He'd documented conversation patterns, response times, photo analysis techniques. He'd built machine learning models that could predict with 89% accuracy whether a profile was genuine or fake, based on messaging behavior alone. The business plan was actually brilliant. Dating apps were plagued with fake profiles, catfishers, and scammers. A B2B service that helped these companies identify and remove fake accounts could be worth millions. He'd already had preliminary meetings with 3 major dating platforms. And the core of his research, the proof of concept that made it all credible, was the profile he'd built using my photos. He'd proven that even with authentic photos and convincing details, his system could identify the fake profile based purely on messaging patterns and behavioral analysis. But nowhere in his documentation did I find evidence that he'd asked my permission. There was a note to self. Need to tell Naledi about the photos. She'll understand the research value. Would I? Would I have? I heard Dimitri stir behind me. I quickly closed the laptop and slipped back into bed. My phone hidden under my pillow, my heart racing. He rolled over, his arm draping across my waist in that familiar way. You're tense, he murmured, still half asleep. Bad dream? Something like that, I whispered. He pulled me closer, kissed my shoulder. Want to talk about it? I almost laughed. The absurdity of it. Him offering comfort when he was the source of my distress. Not yet, I said. Ask me again in the morning. He made a sleepy sound of agreement and drifted back off. I lay there, his arm around me, feeling like I was sleeping next to a stranger. At 6:33 a.m., his alarm went off. Dimitri reached for his phone to silence it, and I watched his face carefully. He squinted at the screen, swiped through notifications, paused. His expression didn't change, but his thumb moved deliberately, opening something, reading it. My message, I assumed. The one from my fake profile, Toffee, he asked, setting the phone down and stretching, his face betrayingly neutral. Sure, I said. I followed him to the kitchen, watched him go through the familiar motions of grinding beans, heating water. His phone sat on the counter between us. When it buzzed again, I saw his eyes flick toward it, but he didn't pick it up. "You seem distracted," I ventured. "Just thinking about a work thing," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Nothing important." The lie sat between us like a third person at the breakfast table. "Dimitri," I said carefully, "if you were doing research for a project or whatever, and you needed to use someone's photos or personal information, you'd ask permission first, right?" His hand stilled on the coffee pot. "Of course. Why do you ask?" "Just thinking about a story I'm working on. Ethics in journalism, that kind of thing." He nodded slowly, poured the coffee. "Ethics are important. In any field." The hypocrisy was stunning. His phone buzzed again. This time I saw the notification clearly. A message from Viviana Velvet, my fake profile. "I'm free tonight if you want to grab a drink." Somewhere discreet. I'd sent it from the bathroom a few minutes ago. Dimitri picked up his phone, read the message. I watched something shift in his expression. Was it guilt? Excitement? Calculation? "I might have to work late tonight," he said, setting the phone back down. "Don't wait up for dinner." And there it was. He was going to respond. He was going to set up a meeting with what he thought was another woman, a woman who wasn't his wife, using research as justification for what amounted to emotional infidelity at minimum. "Actually," I said, "I was thinking we could have dinner together tonight. We haven't had a proper date night in weeks." I watched him scramble mentally. "I really can't reschedule this thing." "What thing?" "Work. A meeting with a potential investor." Another lie. Or was it? Maybe he considered his fake dating app conversations research meetings. Maybe in his mind, this was all business. "Okay," I said softly, "work it is." The relief on his face made me want to throw my coffee at him. He left for his actual office at 8:15, kissing me goodbye like everything was normal. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed my laptop and got to work. If Dimitri wanted to conduct an experiment about fake identities on dating apps, I'd show him exactly what investigative journalism could uncover. I started by reverse image searching every photo on his fake profile, my photos. Found where he'd pulled them from, our private cloud storage, albums I thought were secure. He'd been methodical, choosing images that didn't appear anywhere else online, ones that would pass a basic catfish check. Then I went deeper into his Project Mirror files, found his experimental protocol, his research notes, his ethical considerations document, which was laughably sparse. There was a single line. Subject is spouse. Implied consent through marriage and shared digital assets. Implied consent, as if being married meant my image was his to use however he wanted. I pulled up his chat logs and began documenting everything. Screenshots, timestamps, conversation patterns. I created a spreadsheet tracking every woman he'd engaged with, how long the conversations had lasted, how far he'd led them on. Most telling were the messages from the last 2 weeks. Several women had started asking why he wouldn't meet up, why he always had excuses. He'd begun ghosting the more persistent ones, letting conversations die rather than continuing the charade. But one woman, username Talia Rose 88, had gotten further than the others. Their conversation had grown personal. She'd shared details about her own unhappy marriage, her loneliness, her desire for connection. Dimitri had reciprocated with what looked like genuine emotional intimacy, talking about feeling disconnected, about missing passion in his life. I had to read those messages 3 times to be sure they were part of the experiment and not something else. "Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I'd made different choices," Dimitri had written to her. "If I'd been braver, more willing to take risks." Was he still pretending? Or had the lines blurred? My phone buzzed. A message to my fake profile from Dimitri seeks more. "Drinks sound good. How about the district at 8? I'll be the one in the blue shirt." He was really doing this. Setting up a meeting, making plans, committing to the deception. I took a screenshot and added it to my growing file of evidence. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I created another fake profile, a male one this time, and sent a message to Talia Rose 88. "Hey, I saw you've been chatting with Dimitri Seeks More. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that profile is fake. Those photos are stolen. I know because that's actually someone's wife. Just thought you should know before you get hurt." Her response came within minutes. "Are you serious? We've been talking for 3 weeks. He seemed so genuine. I'm sorry, but yes, completely serious." You're not talking to who you think you are. There was a long pause. Then, thank you for telling me. God, I feel like an idiot. I felt a pang of guilt. This woman was real. Her feelings were real, and she'd been hurt by my husband's research. How many others were out there, thinking they'd found a connection, only to be ghosted or worse? I spent the rest of the day building my case. By 5 p.m., I had a comprehensive document outlining everything: the fake profile, the messages, the business plan, the ethics violations, the emotional manipulation of real people for research purposes. I also had a plan. At 7:30 p.m., I got dressed for a date. Black dress, red lipstick, the perfume Dimitri loved. I did my hair in loose waves and put on the earrings he'd given me for our second anniversary. Then I drove to the district. The bar was dimly lit, upscale without being pretentious. I arrived at 7:45 and chose a table near the back with a clear view of the entrance. Ordered a glass of wine and waited. Dimitri arrived at 7:58, wearing a blue shirt as promised. He looked nervous, kept checking his phone. He'd texted me an hour ago with another lie about his investor meeting running late. I watched him scan the bar, looking for a brunette woman who didn't exist. Watched him order a drink, check his phone again, type something, probably to Viviana Velvet, asking where she was. I let him wait 15 minutes. Watched him grow increasingly uncomfortable, checking his watch, his phone, the entrance. He ordered another drink. At 8:23, I stood up and walked over to his table. "Is this seat taken?" I asked. His head snapped up, and the expression on his face was one I'll never forget. Shock, confusion, fear, and something that might have been relief all crashed together. "What are you? How did you?" I sat down across from him, took a sip of my wine. "I'm Viviana Velvet." Surprise. The color drained from his face. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. I'm also Naledi Seeks Truth, the profile you matched with 3 weeks ago that's been sitting in your messages unopened. And I'm the woman in every single photo on your Dimitri Seeks More profile. So yes, Dimitri, I think you have a lot of explaining to do." He opened his mouth, closed it. "Try it again. It's not what it looks like." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Really? Because it looks like you've been running a fake dating profile using my photos, pretending to be a cheating husband, engaging with real women who think you're interested in them, all without my knowledge or consent. Did I miss anything?" "It's research," he said desperately. "For Project Mirror. I'm building something important, something that could help millions of people avoid catfishers and scammers. I needed authentic data, real interactions. Using my face, my body, my identity. I was going to tell you." "When? After you'd collected enough data? After you'd pitched it to investors? After you'd built an entire company on the foundation of violating your wife's privacy and trust?" People at nearby tables were starting to glance over. Dimitri noticed, lowered his voice. "Can we please discuss this at home?" "No," I said firmly. "We're going to discuss it right here, right now. Because I have questions, Dimitri, and you're going to answer them." He slumped back in his chair, defeated. "Okay, did you ask my permission to use my photos?" "No." "Did you consider asking my permission?" A pause. "Yes, but I was afraid you'd say no. So you decided to do it anyway." The research required authenticity. Stock photos don't generate the same engagement patterns. I needed real photos of a real person to prove the concept worked. And you chose me because I was convenient, available. Because you had access to my private photos and thought I wouldn't find out. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I leaned forward. "Explain to me how using your wife's image to catfish women on a dating app is somehow ethical research." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized from every other time he'd been caught in something he couldn't easily explain away. "In the academic research I consulted, there's precedent for this kind of deceptive methodology when studying human behavior, as long as there's a debriefing process and the research serves a greater good." "Did you debrief Talia Rose 88? I interrupted. "The woman you spent 3 weeks building an emotional connection with? The one who opened up to you about her failing marriage? Did you tell her it was all an experiment?" His silence was answer enough. "What about the others? The women who actually developed feelings, who thought they'd found someone who understood them? Did you consider the ethics of that?" "I never met any of them," he said, as if that made it better. "I never took it beyond messages. I kept it purely digital. You led them on. You made them think you were interested. You collected their emotional vulnerabilities like data points for your research. How is that not cruel?" "It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone," he said quietly. The whole point of Project Mirror is to protect people from exactly this kind of manipulation. I thought, if I could show how easy it is to create a convincing fake profile, how readily people engage with them, I could build tools to stop it from happening. By becoming the very thing you're claiming to fight against. I shook my head. Do you see the irony? You became a catfisher to study catfishing. You manipulated people to develop anti-manipulation software. I know it looks bad. It doesn't just look bad, Dimitri. It is bad. You violated my privacy. You deceived dozens of women. You lied to me every day for 6 months. All for a business idea. It's more than a business idea, he argued, some heat returning to his voice. Dating apps are dangerous. People lose money, get emotionally manipulated, sometimes worse. What I'm building could actually save people from real harm. And the harm you caused along the way? Does that not count? He fell silent again. I pulled out my phone and opened a document. I spent today documenting everything. Your fake profile, your messages, your business plan, all of it. I have screenshots, timestamps, evidence of every deception. Do you know what I could do with this? Fear flickered across his face. Naledi. I could write an exposé. Tech entrepreneur catfishes dating app users for research. It would be career-ending. No investor would touch you. Project Mirror would die before it launched. Please don't. Or, I could go to the women you've been talking to. Tell them the truth. Let them decide if they want to file complaints, pursue legal action for emotional distress, violation of privacy. That's not fair. Fair? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. You want to talk about fair? You used my face without permission. You made me an unwitting accomplice in your deception. Every woman who matched with that profile thinks they know what I look like, thinks they've seen intimate photos of me. How is that fair to me? I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I'm so sorry. You're right. About all of it. I got so focused on the potential of the project that I stopped thinking about the ethics. I told myself it was justified because the end goal was good, but that doesn't excuse what I did. It was the first genuinely honest thing he'd said all night. Why didn't you just ask me? I said, and I hated how my voice wavered. If you'd come to me 6 months ago and explained the project, explained why you needed my photos, I might have said yes. I might have helped you figure out a way to do this ethically. But you didn't give me that choice. I know. Do you trust me so little? Or do you respect me so little? Neither, he said urgently. I was ashamed. I knew it was ethically gray at best, and I didn't want to have to defend it to you because I knew I couldn't. You have this moral compass that's unwavering, and I knew you'd see through all my justifications. So I took the coward's way out and did it without telling you. At least he was being honest now. What happens to Project Mirror? He asked quietly. I'd been thinking about that all day. The truth was, stripped of its unethical methodology, the core idea was solid. The technology could genuinely help people, but it was built on a foundation of lies and manipulation. That depends, I said. On what? On what you do next. On whether you're willing to actually make this right. He leaned forward. Tell me how. I'll do anything. I pulled out a printed document I'd prepared. My terms, my requirements for moving forward. First, you delete the fake profile immediately. Tonight. And you message every single woman you've been talking to and tell them the truth. That it was fake. That you were conducting research. And you apologize for wasting their time and any hurt you caused. He nodded. Second, you bring me on as a full partner in Project Mirror. Not as your wife, as a professional. I'm an investigative journalist. I know how to research ethically, how to protect subjects, how to maintain integrity. If this project is going to exist, it's going to be done right, okay? Yes. Third, we completely redesign the research methodology. No more real photos, no more emotional manipulation. We find ethical ways to test the system. Maybe we work with dating apps directly, get permission to create controlled fake profiles that everyone knows are fake. Maybe we recruit volunteers who consent to being studied. But no more deception. Agreed. And fourth, I said, my voice harder now, you go to therapy. Because this wasn't just about bad research ethics. This was about lying to me for 6 months. About making unilateral decisions that affected both of us. About prioritizing your ambition over our marriage. We need to figure out why you thought that was acceptable. And we need to make sure it never happens again. He was quiet for a long moment. Are we okay? Us. I mean, I'd been asking myself the same question all day. Was this forgivable? Could I trust him again? I don't know, I admitted. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I feel betrayed. But I also understand that people make mistakes, that good intentions can lead to bad decisions. What I need from you is complete transparency going forward. No more secrets, no more lies, not even small ones. You have it. I swear. I need time, Dimitri. Time to process this, to rebuild trust. We're not going to be okay tomorrow or next week. This is going to take work. I understand. I stood up, gathering my things. Delete the profile tonight. Send those messages. Tomorrow, we sit down and start planning how to do this right. He stood too, hesitant. Are you coming home? Yes. But I'm sleeping in the guest room for a while. The pain in his eyes was evident, but he nodded. Okay. I left him there in the bar, nursing his drink alone. Drove home through quiet streets, my mind spinning with everything that had happened, everything that would come next. When I got home, I poured myself another glass of wine and sat on the couch with my laptop. Pulled up the fake profiles I'd created and deleted them, one by one. Then I opened a new document and started writing. Not an exposé. Not yet, anyway. Maybe never. Instead, I started outlining a new approach to Project Mirror. Ethical research protocols, partnership agreements, a business structure that included oversight and accountability. My phone buzzed around midnight. A screenshot from Dimitri, his deleted Dimitri seeks more profile, confirmation that it was gone. Then another message. I've drafted messages to send to everyone I talk to. Can you read them over before I send? Want to make sure I get this right. I read through his apologetic messages. They were honest, direct, took full responsibility without making excuses. Send them, I replied. Over the next few weeks, we worked on rebuilding both our marriage and Project Mirror. Dimitri started therapy, individual and couples. We had hard conversations about trust, about decision-making in our marriage, about the person he'd become in pursuit of success and whether that was who he wanted to be. Project Mirror got a complete overhaul. We partnered with 3 major dating platforms, got permission to create transparent test profiles that were clearly marked as fake, but used real-world conversation patterns. We recruited volunteers who consented to have their messaging behavior studied. We brought on an ethics consultant and established an oversight board. The technology worked even better with ethical methodology. Turned out you didn't need to deceive people to study deception. 6 months later, we pitched the refined version to investors. One of them asked about our research methodology, and Dimitri looked at me before answering. We learned some hard lessons about ethics in the development process, he said. My wife, who's now my co-founder, helped me understand that good technology can't be built on bad practices. So we started over, did it right, and I think the product is stronger for it. We got the funding. Project Mirror launched a year later to positive reviews and real impact, helping dating platforms identify and remove fake profiles, protecting users from catfishers and scammers. Sometimes, people ask how we came up with the idea for the company. Dimitri always looks at me, lets me decide how much to share. Usually, I just smile and say we identified a gap in the market through some unconventional research. The full story, the matching with my own husband, the deception, the confrontation in that bar, that stays between us. A reminder of how close we came to destroying something valuable, and how we chose to rebuild instead. I still think about those women sometimes. The ones Dimitri messaged with, the ones who thought they'd found a connection. I hope they found what they were really looking for. I hope they're okay. And I think about that night I found his profile, my own face staring back at me from the phone screen. How in that moment, I could have chosen rage, could have chosen revenge, could have chosen to walk away. Instead, I chose truth. Complicated, messy, uncomfortable truth. It wasn't the ending either of us expected when this started, but it was the right one. On my nightstand now, next to my phone, there's a framed photo of Dimitri and me from our recommitment ceremony last spring. It's the only photo of me that exists online connected to Project Mirror, and this time, I put it there myself.